Hello, Scrufftards and weirdos online. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And yes, Ukraine holds roughly 50% of this very vital town in Kursk, Veseloye, the key to Glushkovo County, Glushkovo district. If Ukraine grabs this town, the road is open to grabbing the entirety of the Glushkovo Rayon, the Glushkovo County within Kursk Oblast. So let's take a look at it. Right, so the ISW map for the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk. Not many changes, I believe. I think it looks the same as last time we took a look at this. But what we will be focusing on is this portion here, where Ukraine has pushed in towards a very important town over here. And towards the end, we will also take a look what's going on over here around a town called Tetkino. But first, Veseloye. And we're gonna start off here with Deep State. Deep State has indicated that Ukraine has pushed up to the east and west of Veseloye and the small village of Ubukovka, essentially threatening to surround the town itself. Meanwhile, at the same time, we have Suryak Maps, a pro-Russian mapper. He used to, a couple of days ago, he confirmed pretty much what we're seeing here, with Ukraine up on the right flank as well as pushing up on the left flank in town itself. As you can see, he has Ukraine within the town also. But the other day, he just made a switcheroo and now claims Russia has pushed Ukraine back. Meanwhile, at the same time, we have Deep State claiming the opposite, and we're going to take a look at Andrew Pepechian next because he too contradicts Syriac map, and he too indicates that Ukraine has pushed forward. So something has happened here, very strange, with some maps showing a lot of Ukrainian progress, and then this map showing Russian progress at the same time. Right, to highlight, this is what Andrew used to have outside of Veseloye, but then on the 29th, he indicated that this took place, a big push by Ukraine up into town, as well as moving the contested area to surround the town in its entirety. And we have geolocated locations of Ukrainians to the west and north of Veseloye. At the same time, we can see Russia striking a lot of Ukrainian positions east and south of Veseloye. So a bit confusing what's going on, but some days ago, ISW made a big update indicating that Ukraine was pushed back in the area. So it could be that Syriac Maps is now aligning his front lines with that intel that ISW acted on a couple of days ago. But then the question is, why is Deep State and Andrew Perpetua now moving Ukraine forward? Very confusing. I mean, it is an active battlefront. You will get conflicting reports depending on who's currently attacking during what time of day and stuff like that. And this information is obviously also 24, 48 hours old, maybe 72 hours old. So they will probably be relying on intel from different days, different dates, and different hours during the day as well. But the conflicting maps should tell us that this is a very active front line where both sides are trying to push each other back and outmaneuver each other, and they are aiming a lot of firepower into each other's positions. But a more recent update made by Andrew, as you can see, he still has a large area being contested. He still has Ukraine in control of a lot of territory and being within the town of Veseloye. He also has this arrow indicating a big, strong Ukrainian push west and north into Veseloye. Later on, we'll take a look at this. This is kind of interesting, but we're staying on Veseloye now. And so we have a bunch of maps. I think I have something like 6 or 8 maps that I'm looking at. And we're gonna try and combine what they're telling us into my own map to get a feel for what the front line may look like or what it might have looked like a day or two ago. Right, my map based on a bunch of other maps. So what we see on most maps is an indication that Ukraine is in Ubukovka and more than likely have also pushed into the center of Veseloye. They are in control of the fields and windbreaks south of town. They are to the east. And then we have this push. We have ISW indicating that Ukraine has moved up this way. We have geolocated Ukrainians here, over here, and all over the place down here. But we do have Syriac maps telling us that Russia has pushed Ukraine out of this area and that this entire part is under Russian control. A bit unclear, so that's why I've made it orange. It's a question mark who is in control here, but it's a blue question mark. I'm leaning towards Ukraine being on the offensive in this area, trying to push in and maintain control over this part of town. Seems reasonable. Ukraine used to be over here, according to a bunch of mappers, but I think I believe it's credible what Syriac Maps is telling us that Russia has pushed in here. This is a difficult part to control for Ukraine. It's not unreasonable that Russia has moved in and pushed Ukraine out of these windbreaks, since Ukraine had to cross these fields to support these positions. So yes, I think Russia may actually have secured these windbreaks and the buildings right next to it. Over here, we have claims that Russia has moved in. We also have other maps telling us that this is a massive contested area, so that's why I have marked it orange, question mark, contested, but red, essentially indicating Russia is trying to push in this way. The question is, how far has Russia gone? Are they in control of these 2 fields or even this one? Who knows? But I don't think they've managed to cross these fields. That might be pushing it a bit too far, to be honest. But I think that primarily these 2 fields and windbreaks, outlining them, that is what is truly contested and in question. This should have been listed as yellow, meaning area that can't really be controlled. It's a wide open field that neither side has any control over. But I think this is a decent approximation of what has been going on previous days around Veseloye. We had a situation where Ukraine had pushed up this way into these windbreaks. They were up this way, as indicated here, and that put a lot of pressure on the Russians, and it allowed Ukraine to push into town and secure parts of the town itself, and basically claiming half of the town. This was obviously not acceptable to the Russians. They had to do something. They probably launched a big counter push into this area to force Ukraine back across the field and opening up ways to move in troops and supplies into town. Seems logical. And they also want to secure this main road that will allow them to well and truly supply Veseloye and reinforce it. So that they are contesting over here, very logical. This is the road leading in from Glushkovo, that main town. So this is where Russia can bring in proper amounts of troops, and a big push from here seems very credible. So trying to move down here, trying to push Ukraine away from the main road. Yeah, but Ukraine is still in control of this field. By the looks of it, they are in control of this part of town. That means Russia can't use this road to bring in support to their troops in the town. Russia is relying on bringing in reinforcements and supplies across this difficult terrain. That slows everything down. It makes the vehicles vulnerable to drones, makes them vulnerable, getting stuck in the mud and in the grass and in the fields and in the terrain, making it difficult to support the fight in Veseloye. So with Ukraine holding this part here, it's not looking good for the Russians. Ukraine, they are pushing up this way. They are pushing through these fields as well. And that gives them a very good, puts them in a good position to coming around this way and further outflanking the Russians and pushing Russia out of town. It's like I've said in previous videos, Russia pushes back, but each time Ukraine pushes back even further. So Ukraine moved up on the flanks, Russia pushed Ukraine back, but on the flip side, Ukraine pushed into town itself, right? So Russia is, having some success outside of town, but that has allowed Ukraine to have success within the town, right? So Russia is struggling at the moment, and I mean, we're just getting closer and closer to the point where this town is in Ukrainian control. But this is how Russia operates. They don't give up a single inch without a fight. They will keep throwing troops and resources into the defense of this town until Ukraine controls every single building. That is when Russia will give up on Veseloye. So Russia will keep pushing in from the east, trying to secure the road so that they can reach the town. Meanwhile, as that is happening, since Russia will struggle to bring in reinforcements across the open fields here, Ukraine will keep pushing, and building by building will eventually secure the entirety of this town of Veseloye. So that's Veseloye over here. Now we're going to take a look at Tetkino. What's going on over here is weird as hell. I have no idea what's going on. Now Andrew has added this arrow indicating that he believes or has seen evidence of a Ukrainian push towards Tetkino in this area. This is contested because we have had reports of Ukrainian infantry crossing the border, moving towards Tetkino. This has been like this for a couple of weeks now. But now we have this blue arrow indicating Ukraine is up to something. But the interesting part is what's going on over here and even up here. Because we have seen for like 2 weeks now massive amounts of artillery aimed at these fields and the forests up here. But we're not seeing anything on the maps that Ukraine is pushing in. I don't think we have geolocated vehicles moving in the area either. We've had some Russian airstrikes along the border here, but I don't think we actually know why we're seeing so much artillery in this area at all. It's very strange. So we're going to take a look at the firm's maps just to highlight how much artillery is being aimed at the fields and the woods to the north of Tetkino. So 24th of September and 25th and 26th. I mean, take a look. Take a look. This is Tetkino right here. This is Tetkino. And this is where Ukraine is pushed in with infantry. Take a look. Artillery all over the fields. And take a look on the 25th. Take a look. What's going on over here? And the same thing on the 26th. This here is where a highway leads into Russia from Ukraine across these fields and into town. And I mean, something is going on out on these fields around that highway. You can see it 3 days consecutively, you have massed artillery aimed at these fields for some reason. And it continues. On the 30th, though, we have artillery up north instead. This is Tetkino and artillery up north. 1st of October, the artillery up north continues, but then you're back to shelling to the east of Tetkino, a bit more north from these fields. And then on the second, I mean, the artillery continues up here, and we still have artillery now a bit closer to town even, out here in this area here where you have some more cover. So is this an indication that Ukraine is pushing through this area here where you have windbreaks and forests and more cover and trying to reach town? Is that what we're seeing? But why aren't we seeing anything on the maps? Why aren't the mappers showing us that this is happening? It's very confusing. And it's been like this for like 2 weeks, where we've seen a lot of artillery all over the place, all over. And nothing is happening on the maps out on these fields. We have Ukraine, according to Andrew, he's the only one showing us that Ukraine is moving here. But that's about it. And then you have Deep State, Andrew, and IceW also has a small Ukrainian incursion down here. But Deep State and Andrew, they have larger incursions, and Deep State has a small one. So Ukraine has pushed in here, but what about all the artillery over here? What is that all about? So Andrew's map again. Here we have where the Ukrainians have pushed in. This is where Andrew is claiming Ukraine is making a big push. Andrew claims that Ukraine has pushed in north of Tetkino and Popovo-Lesachi, doing stuff here. But it's up here that we're seeing all that artillery. All that mass artillery in the north is taking place up here. These are the fields where we have seen humongous amounts. Humongous! Yes, I chose that word for some reason. Humongous amounts. Can you even use humongous in that context? I don't know. But it's a lot of artillery aimed at these fields, this windbreak, and over here. And then you have some artillery concentrated around the main highway here, as you can see. But nothing, no map shows that Ukraine is moving here. Scribble Maps does show it. Truth be told, Scribble Maps does show that Ukraine has made an attempt along the highway. What's his name? Majestic 73. His map for a brief time had Ukrainian gains down here around this part of the border. He's since then removed it. But I mean, we keep seeing artillery strikes. So no clue what's going on, except that something is getting bombed to hell and back out in this part of Russia for whatever reason. Right, so very interesting. Ukraine has pushed into Veseloye and grabbing one building after the other. We'll see what the updates tells us about that western part, if Ukraine has been pushed back or not. And Tetkino, what the hell is going on? A lot of artillery is aimed at the field surrounding that town, but so far, no indication that anything is actually going on. Very strange and confusing. But more importantly, Ukraine is pushing into Veseloye and is steadily forcing Russia back and out of town. That's it. That's going to have to be everything this time around. I hope you found it interesting. I hope I'll see you in the next one. As always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.